Hold on. Okay, good morning and welcome to the Erace meetings. I will be the facilitator today. My name is Louise. Just a few things I have to read. Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Please join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to listen, learn, and not to argue. I'll read the land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimacha and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creek and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Nanyapi and Piscataway in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, the Kalua and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous land. Can you all hear me? Okay, is that a good volume?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So seems like we all know what's going on, but I'll explain anyway. That we ask that everyone keeps themselves on mute. There'll be a list that I'll keep. You put up one finger, wave it around if you want to get on that list, and you have 2 minutes to speak. Please don't interrupt the speaker. And there's no side comments, no personal attacks, no name calling. And the point of the discussion, as we said, is to listen and learn, not to argue. There's a clarifying question. If you haven't really understood what the speaker was saying, you can raise 2 fingers, wave it around. And the clarifying question really is, I didn't understand what you meant by a word or a term, or can you clarify what you meant by? The questions are not meant for you to jump in and give a monologue of your thoughts and opinions. You can get on the list for that. So only 2 people can have clarifying questions. Okay, I'm going to briefly get you to introduce yourselves, how long you've been with Erace, and then I'll explain about the topic. So who we got here? Change glasses. Phyllis.
Good morning, I'm Phyllis. I've been coming to Erace since 2008 when I moved to New Orleans, and that's where I am, New Orleans. Thanks.
Thank you. Nancy.
Good morning. I've been coming. I'm in the New Orleans area. My name is Nancy. Kind of got this a little backwards today. And I've been coming to Erace since June of 2007.
Thank you. Marion.
Am I unmuted? Okay, I'm Marion. I've been attending the race meetings here in New Orleans since 1993.
Thank you, Marion. Stephanie.
Hello, well, I'm pretty new to Erace. I started in January because I met B. Souble, who has an Erace group here in Atlanta. And so I talked to her and here I am.
Thank you. Glad to see you. Assalamu alaikum, Glenn.
Wa alaikum assalam, Louise. Been a member of Erace since 94. Might have been earlier than that, but I'll say 94. And I'm glad to be here this morning.
Glad to have you. Teresa.
Good morning. I'm Teresa Roberson. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been coming since about August 2022.
Thank you. Leonetta.
Good morning, everybody. I'm from New Orleans, and I've been a member since I was an intern in undergrad.
Very cool. So I did pick an article that was about colonialism and Palestine and Black and Palestinian plights, but unfortunately we couldn't open it unless you paid for it or subscribed. So Phyllis was kind enough to find one almost exactly the same as the one I had picked. And of course, you know, Palestine is very much on the tip of everyone's tongues, or at least it should be. Um, and so I think this is quite a topical piece, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. And I will start the list. Raise a finger if you want to start. Don't be shy. Yay, Nancy.
Okay. Didn't really get to read the whole article, and I was kind of somewhat confused about really what it was about, but I think it was comparing the manifest destiny and the colonization of the United States to what has happened in Palestine, to the Palestinian plight. Am I correct?
Yes. And
Yes.
other, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I would just like to say that somewhere back in the 1200s or something like that, the European church came up with this idea of how they, like Pinky in the Brain, let's take over the world. And they could use religion to justify that they were the supreme beings and could dominate everyone to be under their control. Is that what am I? Well, I mean, that's my feeling, but that's what I got kind of out of the article. And that, as I've always said, the Constitution and only in Declaration of Independence and all of those documents only refer to white heterosexual Christian rich men, and that they go around and spread their dominance all over the world, and people are rebelling against it. Now, I may have missed some parts of it because, like I said, really didn't read all of it. I didn't get all the way down to the bottom of it, but that's kind of what I got out of it. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always worried about long articles that people get reading exhaustion or whatever. Um, and but colonization, I mean, you know, I'm British, for God's sakes. The British were the worst, you know, we went everywhere, everywhere. Queen Victoria, for such a, you know, what was she, 4'2" or something, you know, one of the most powerful women in the whole entire world. It's ridiculous. And it's still going on. Anyway, Gilly, is it Gilly or Gilly? Would you want to introduce yourself?
It's me, you guys. Just got in late. Greer.
Oh,
It's Greer.
Greer.
Oh, it's you. Hello, Maria. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Okay, the list is open if anyone would like to get on the list. Phyllis, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, take it away, Phyllis.
Well,
Marion,
as some
gotcha.
people say, the issue of the Palestinian struggle right now has become my whole personality.
I do agree.
I've only posted maybe 3 non-related things on social media since October 7th. And I saw this week that the Columbia students have a tradition of midnight primal screams, and they're doing it in front of their president's house. And I would like to find a group of people to do primal screaming with, because that's pretty much how I feel every time something happens on the campuses, something happens in Gaza, something happens on the West Bank. The president comes out and talks out of his, you know what. It's just so crazy to me that a genocide is being perpetrated and this country is acting like the people who are being slaughtered are in the wrong. It's insane. It's insanity. And I'm really glad to read articles like this that draw the parallels to the struggle for rights in the United States by Black people and the Palestinian struggle. And it does all go back to colonialism. And Israel is it's like the bastion of the West in the Middle East. And it's really, it's not gonna turn out well for them or for us, what's going on now. It's just not. I guess that's all for now. I might get on the later. I'm sure I will.
Okay, good. Marion.
I thought it was, to put it mildly, cheeky that the representatives or representative, whoever it was from South Africa, it stated in the article, it made a compelling, well-articulated case to condemn Israel for genocide and the systemic dehumanization against Palestinians. And I thought of all the nerve after what those people did to the Black Africans in South Africa for that long period of time. Well, I thought, I said it out loud. There was no one in the room but myself, and my granddaughter came into the room, and she thought I was on the phone talking to someone. But I thought it was just cheeky. I said, well, you so-and-sos have a heck of a nerve. And I didn't say heck. I'm saying heck on the in the comments here. For you to condemn Israel, and I'm not defending Israel. I'm just saying that South Africa had the gall to criticize Israel for its treatment of the Palestinian people. And on another note, but it was in the reading about manifest destiny. And this country was responsible for that. And it came from the year 1885 that the United States was destined by God. I also thought that was a heck of a nerve. They were ordained by God to spread dominion and democracy and capitalism across the entire North American continent at the expense of people that had been here for eons. And it just seems to me, got a whole lot of doggone cheeky people saying stuff when they themselves have wreaked havoc on their fellow human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it burns me up.
Louise,
I
would
got
like
you,
to ask-
Glenn.
No, I just want to ask a question
Oh,
at this
clarifying
point.
question?
Definitely.
Okay,
Uh,
to Marion? Yeah,
yes, to Marion. Marion,
okay, good.
do you realize that the South African government is now ruled by the people who were oppressed,
That's
and
not a
that's why
clarifying
there's freedom?
question, though. Do you want to get on the list?
Yeah, put me on the list.
Do you want to? Do you want to get on the list? Point of order. Okay, babe.
But
All right.
you
So I've
put me
got
on the list.
Greer, Phyllis, and Glenn. I have Greer, Phyllis, and then Glenn. I got you. Okay, so Greer, you're up.
Okay. There's always some type of parallel where somebody wants to parallel something that goes along with African Americans' existence in this country since before America became America. And that's fine and all, but at the same time, we're still fighting our first fight in this country. Nothing has changed. And mind you, I do have compassion immensely for the Palestinians. But at the same time, there's genocide going on in the Congo, and nobody's talking about that. So is somebody's genocide more newsworthy or more protest worthy than someone else's? Because at the end of the day, two drowning people can't save each other if they can't swim. We join bandwagons, but at the end of the day, it's like when black soldiers go to fight wars in other countries for democracy, to give them freedoms, and they come home to America and they don't have that same freedom. A lot of this comparisons to me is honestly hypocritical. Because at the end of the day, you keep talking about the parallels, but there's no change that ever goes along with it anytime. Again, we were born behind enemy lines in this country in a war against us with agendas legislated by law that are still going on today systemically. And here we still are. And nothing is changing. When is the war going to be over? I always say, if Black people had their rights in America, then everyone else would, because we are the lowest hanging fruit. That's it. Thank you.
Greer, do you want to get back on?
No, I'm good. I'll chill out for a minute.
Okay. All right, Phyllis and then Glenn. Phyllis.
So yes, I was going to say what Glenn tried to use as a clarifying question, that South Africa is not being run by white people anymore. It's being run by Black people who suffered under apartheid and know what that looks like and have clearly identified Israel as an apartheid state. So yeah, there's nothing cheeky about it. They're speaking from experience. I also want to say the reason there's parallels between different oppressions around the world is because there are people who are doing the oppressing who all are operating from the same handbook. They want the resources, they want to move people off land that they want. You know, there are parallels because the oppressors are for the most part the same, whether it's here or Palestine. I mean, we're helping oppress Palestine. So I agree. As I always say, and as Ida B. Wells said, Ida B. Wells? No, somebody else said, no one's free till everyone is free. And I don't think that one group's freedom will necessarily trickle down to anybody else's. But I think that if there are coalitions, as there are in these campus protests, that is when change will ultimately happen. And I have so much confidence and faith in this younger generation that they are not buying the BS anymore. Thank you.
Greer, I got you. Are you you're gonna be after Glenn. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yes, I could never agree with someone who says that nothing has changed. uh, if you lived in Jim Crow, the problem is a lot of people weren't born in Jim Crow era, so they don't know what it was like to be in the Jim Crow era. They can watch TV, but it's not like when you lived in there. You know the changes that have happened. In fact, you can get it from the history news. They'll tell you that there's change, enormous change for the African American in his in uh, uh, in his condition that he was in from Jim Crow to now. It just completely ever. You have to bury your head in the sand and be in total denial if you make a statement like that. And I don't want to go through the laundry list of what I can show you.
Got you.
What the difference is.
Got you, Nancy.
Yeah. So now on the Palestinians, where you've seen it. I mean, you've seen bombs dropped on people. You actually seen the bombs drop on people. You've seen cameras of children being blown up while they were playing. You see it. I mean, it's that what is motivating people because they look at a mother who's crying and holding a baby wrapped up in a sheet with blood coming out of the sheet, a dead baby, and seeing babies being amputated without medicine, you that's got to strike at your emotions and to make you get out there and protest. So it's not so much the American news media, it's the other outlets that people are getting their news from. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Do you want to get back on?
I can hold on.
That's a clarifying question.
Okay. Oh, hey, Amal. Yes.
How you doing?
Go ahead.
As it relates to this clarifying question is for Glenn. You talked about not having lived through apartheid, and a lot of the people who make the comment that things haven't changed. My question is, when did Jim Crow rather end in the United States? Like, give me a year.
I would say more in 1965.
1965. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Amal, do you want to get on the list?
No.
Okay. Then it is Greer and then Nancy.
Okay.
Greer?
Let me clarify for my lovely uncle right there. Mind you, I did not grow up in segregation. What I was referring to is the fight. We're still fighting for our basic human rights as African Americans in this country. Why are we still fighting when others have theirs guaranteed? Why are they still trying to take the vote away from us? Why is there a Voting Rights Act? Let's keep it real. Racism has mutated with every gain that we made to try and, if not, take away those gains. So when I was referring to nothing has ever changed, we're still fighting our first fight to be citizens in this country. So some people think we've made it. We have not. All that is an illusion. That's what I was referring to. Thank you.
You're gonna have to put me back on the list.
Please get back on, sir.
Thank you, Greer. You done? Hold on.
Yeah, I'm done.
Glenn, wait. Do you want to get back on the list? Yeah, but Glenn, do you want to get back on the list?
That's correct.
You know you you
Can you
do.
hear me?
All right.
Yeah.
Yep, I got you. You're on the list. All right, Nancy, then Glenn.
Okay. I just want to say that, one of the things that Erace has taught me in the last, what, 17 years that I've been attending is that everything is a matter of perspective and how you look at things. People can have opposing perspectives. Both people can be right. All right. It's depending on how you look at things, how you see it. How does this particular issue that we're talking about affect you directly? It's going to determine your perspective and your opinion on it. Okay. So, as Glenn says, having been, whereas we were children on the cusp of living in Jim Crow era, some things have changed. They have gotten better, a lot better since the Civil Rights Act of 1965. It has gotten better, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Okay, it's gotten better. You don't see, white colored fountains and sitting at the back of the bus anymore. No, it's not obvious like it was once upon a time. It's more subtle, insidious, and covert in terms of racism and segregation and working, the laws that are being made now to restrict voting. And it's how do you have a law that you can't pass out a bottle of water to people standing in line waiting to vote? How do you shut down polling stations, have one polling station for 5,000 people or something to that effect? How do you do? I mean, but those are the subtle and covert ways that your rights are being taken away. No, race cannot be considered a factored in admissions. There's no more EEO. I mean, there's just different things, little things like that that add up. So it's a matter of perspective. How do you look at it? Are you looking at it as the glass is half full? You're looking at it as the glass is half empty, you know? And depending on any given day, I can be both. Okay? Depending on what it is. All right, that's it. That's all I got to say. For now.
That was okay, Nancy.
That was okay? Okay.
Louise, you have yourself muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Louise, for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, I can't wait on Louise to tell me I
Yeah,
can come
hold
in.
up, because Louise is facilitating.
Sorry, I've been turning it off so you don't hear the noise in the back, but I wasn't quick enough.
Oh, don't worry.
Hey, I turned it off, sorry, because of the noise in the background and I messed up. I'm sorry. So it's Glenn and then Teresa.
Yeah, I had it in my mind what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, look, I can plant a garden today, and it looks beautiful. But if I don't keep an eye on the weeds that can grow up, then my garden gonna go away. It's not just African Americans whose rights are being taken away from. All American rights are being taken away from them. You know, I remember I used to have a right. All Americans used to have a right to put their house as a tax deduction, but the legislators up there changed that so the rich could get their tax cut. It took away things that we used to get in tax. All Americans, African Americans always think, oh, it's just happening to me. It's happening to everybody. You know, uh, your women used to have that abortion right. That's been taken away. Was that a law passed against black people? All Americans, you know. So you know, and you have more rights today to uh to to predict or to forecast your own future than you didn't have during the time of Jim Crow. So it's just, that crybaby stuff. I don't want to hear all that old crybaby stuff.
Point of
Oh,
order there.
all right, point of order, sidebar. All right, all right. I think that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Do you want to get back on? You want to get back on the list, Glenn?
That depends on the opposition.
All right. Well, we've got Teresa, and then the list is open. If anyone else would like to, Phyllis. Anyone else? No. Okay. Oh. Wow. I don't think you've ever not used your whole time, Glenn. That was great. All right. Sorry. That was point of order. Teresa, go ahead.
Yes, I put a link in the chat about Ava DuVernay's movie Origin, which is based on Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste. And when I read that book, and if I remember correctly, that's a very thick book. So if you're like, no, I'm not going to do another thick book, I mean, I highly recommend it. The movie really touches the highlights and brings in the story of the author herself, which I did not know. So it's part that book and her research and her personal life. Very interesting. Anyway, what she says is, and she shows different examples, and it started off as being, look what one race does to another. And she came up with the revelation or realization that it was actually a caste system. And it doesn't have to be a formally done caste system. So when we look at any conflict in which we're saying these people are being subjugated, slaughtered, murdered, turned into machines or violence or whatever, I like looking at it through her lens of caste, is just that you always have people who there's just historically been people who always want to be at the top of the caste system or the hierarchy, and they will redefine, not because of science, not because of religion or anything, but purely they want power. And that power comes in forms of resources, even manipulating somebody else's time. There's a lot of ways to exert power, and anything can be a resource if you have the power to turn it into such. And so I was just recommending that if you've never seen the movie, if you've never read the book, it's a different way to look at every single conflict. Even I forget who made the comment about using religion to take resources. It's one of the reasons why, not the total reason, but one of the reasons that I'm turned off by religion, even though I believe in the existence of God. Don't want to get into a religious conversation, but just to see the ways that people manipulate others. And really what it boils down to is not saving my soul. It's actually they have a certain amount of power that they want to exert, and they want to see a certain behavior in me so they can continue that pursuit of power and harnessing the resources or whatever. So kind of got away from my original thing, but really that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect timing. We have Phyllis and then Amal. Anyone else want to add their name? No? Okay, Phyllis.
Can you let them all go first and then me, just because I have to figure out what I want to say.
Okay, sure. Sorry. Whoop. Amal, go ahead.
Excuse me, I was unmuting. So as it relates to the change that everybody says taking place in the United States, I always quote Malcolm X, something that he said when he was asked that same question. And he said that if you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. Said then, if you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. Say progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even pulled the knife out, much less begin to heal the blow. They don't even want to admit that the knife is even there. And what we're saying is that if you stab a man in his back 9 inches and pulled it out 6, you don't call that making progress. And so what the African American is doing when we say progress, we look at these little tangible things like not having to sit in the back of the bus or drinking out of water fountain. Malcolm X once again said, who's the white man to sit next to? And who is he to have to drink out the same water fountain as him? Who is he to integrate with? So we don't we have these artificial ideas of what change and progress is. So that's my take on that. Anyway, as it relates to Palestine, I don't know how many people on this panel have been to Israel. I have, and what the Jewish state is doing to the Palestinians is oppressive, and there's no getting around that. But at the same time, I'm not impressed with the way the Palestinians treat the Bedouins and the Afro-Palestinians that are there. See, they don't talk about that on the news because that don't get much play. But their Palestinians are darker than me, and for those who've ever seen me before. And the way the Palestinians who are lighter treat them is no better than the way Israel are treating them. So don't get on TV and cry when Israel do you wrong, when you do the much darker Palestinians just as wrong.
Okay, Amal, thank you. Phyllis.
Before Phyllis go, I had a question to ask Amal.
Clarifying question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How many Palestinians have killed the black Palestinians? How many have been killed by the Palestinians?
I'm not sure what those numbers are. But I know they have systematic things in place to mistreat them and less than the way that they would want to be treated.
Pretty sure it's not 40,000 though. But anywho,
No,
Phyllis, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure it's not that either. That's not the point I was making. I'm just saying that their treatment of those darker Palestinians aren't, they get treated just as bad as what Israel does to them.
I understand, although it's probably a case of triage at this point, right? I do understand that. Anyway, Phyllis.
Okay, so I want to bring in the Cop City situation because we've talked about the Cop City in Atlanta. There are, of course, other cop cities or police training centers being built all over the country. We have a police force in this country that are armed with military grade weapons. And that those weapons have been used against peacefully protesting college students. And one of the known facts that we talked about when we talked about Cop City was the fact that many U.S. police forces train with the Israeli occupation army and police. And if you see videos of how those people if you see videos of how the people in Palestine are being treated and arrested or outright killed by Israeli forces, and also the Jewish people in Israel who protest against the occupation and the genocide, you will see the similar tactics here in the United States. And at UCLA, the police there and the administration allowed non-student outside people to come in and for hours attack the student encampment. Those people were claiming to be Zionists and supporters of Israel. So while peaceful students are being dragged out of their encampments are being demolished, the Zionist supporters are being allowed to fire firecrackers into those encampments that are full of tents. And we know that's not safe. When you set off firecrackers, you're not supposed to aim them at people. And also just beating them, pulling them out and beating them. And I think something is gonna very seriously go down in this country, and I hope there isn't too much bloodshed, but I feel like there will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Greer, you're next, and then is anyone else? The list is open after that. Anyone else wants to add their name?
Yeah, go ahead,
No?
put me on.
Okay, go ahead,
Mhm.
Greer.
You got me?
Okay, good. I got you.
Mhm. Hello?
Go ahead, Greer.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
I guess some of us are satisfied with the ways things are. I'm just gonna say I'm not. Like Nancy said, it could be better and it should be better. And after 467 years in captivity, living through Jim Crow, ending up segregation, and still to this day, we still fighting for the same thing. It makes no sense. And I don't know if everybody knows this who lives in Louisiana, but in East Baton Rouge, they just got the authority to create an all-white town with affluent white people called St. George. Mind you, this all started when John Bell Edwards in office, and it was shut down by an appellate court twice and went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Once Landry gets in office, now they're allowed to create this town of rich, wealthy white folks. See, a lot of people don't see how backwards we're going. You're taking away reproductive rights. And mind you, the reason why they're doing that has nothing to do with Black people, but we're always collateral damage for anything that happens to the white community. Like they say, if America has a cold, our community has pneumonia. So you have an all-white town that's gonna function using our taxpayers' dollars. Isn't that what happened when my grandparents paid taxes for libraries, parks, and other places that their kids weren't allowed to go? Oh, it's so much better that it's going backwards. And a lot of people don't realize we're in an Atwood Orwellian nexus where we're slowly reverting back to the old ways. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Marion has a clarifying question for you.
Go ahead, Marion. How you doing?
I agree. It's not a clarifying question. It's static on my end of this Zoom call, and I didn't hear the name of the town, Greer. I heard Saint, and then there was a lot of static.
St. George.
St. George, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greer.
Glenn.
Yeah, there's nothing racist about people wanting to have their own town. There's nothing racist about it. You got you got. I went in down. I went in. I was when I was a truck driver. I went to Cicero, and they had mostly it was Mexicans in there. You know, and they're nothing wrong with them having the area where they all get. And we go to New Orleans East. They got the Vietnamese village back there where you just got Vietnamese. It is nothing wrong with that. We're a pluralistic country. We're not. We can have these different places as long as long as they're not breaking any of the laws of America. I hope one day that we have a Muslim town, like they have a Chinatown. I want to have a Muslim town, an African American Muslim town. I would love to see that, where we can get in the minarets at 5 o'clock in the morning and give the call on the loudspeaker, come to prayer. You know, that the African American is crazy. They 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 can't stand to see somebody wanting to be with their own ethnic group. They got to come in and they got to get put their house right in the middle of it. They believe in everything's got to be integrated. Everything does not have to be integrated. Oh yeah, no, that wasn't my point. Let me get back to what I wanted to talk about.
I have a clarifying question after he finishes.
Yeah. Now,
Okay.
The students, there's nothing that the students are doing wrong. You may have one or two people that are doing something wrong. That'll happen in the group. But freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, that is part of our Constitution. And what we have to watch is, instead of thinking about just black people, but all people's rights being taken away. We got to. You have to be vigilant. You have to be politically aware, and you got to stop being so narrow-minded that you're only thinking about African Americans when you think about America. And it can't work that way.
Do you want to get back on, Glenn?
Let me hear what Greer want to ask me.
Okay. Go ahead. Clarifying question.
My clarifying.
And Leonetta, I have you.
My clarifying question is, did you know that this was going on, and what was going on behind the scenes to actually get this funded? Because you seem to have an opinion about why they didn't, or choosing to create this. Do you have any information about why they decided to make an all-black city?
All white city, man.
I mean, all white city. So did you know anything about this?
Okay, go ahead, Glenn.
No, I don't know. You just brought it up.
Oh, okay.
But I like the idea, though.
Oh, but you don't know what's behind it is my question. You're great with it, but you don't know what's behind it. That's my thing. So basically, you're coming from a point of not knowing.
Point of order.
Oh, my bad. Okay, there you go.
Do you want to get back on?
Hold up. I'll get back.
Okay. So we have Leonetta.
I'd like to ask a clarifying question as well, to Glenn.
Okay, go ahead.
As it relates, you said when you were a truck driver, you drove through various areas that were all
Yes,
Mexican,
go ahead.
so on and so forth. Were those towns, all whatever they were because they were trying to secede from whites, or were they all whatever they were because white supremacy forced them to congregate in those areas with each other?
No, it wasn't because white supremacy forced them. No, it's because it was a matter of choice. That's the reason the Vietnamese have their place, but it was a matter of choice.
Okay, good. Thank you. Moving on. Greer, I've got you down as well. So we've got Leonetta, Phyllis, and then Greer. Anyone else? No? Okay, go ahead, Leonetta.
Yes, I just want to address this about the students protesting. I think that the media has and that's what they do to spread propaganda at the rallies, the pro-Palestinian rallies. They focus on the few little knuckleheads, and they may have been infiltrators with the anti-Semitic, and then they breast the whole group as the whole movement as being anti-Semitic. And now on the other side, you have, I don't know if y'all been looking at the pictures, at these pro-Israeli demonstrations they've had, the white supremacists, which has bothered my mind, are on the Israeli side beating up the Palestinian students, which I find amazing. But I think it's, and if I'm wrong, I hope somebody clarify me. I think it's a whole lot of propaganda that's out there that's stirring this up. And I agree with Greer that I know Phyllis that this is not going to turn out good at all. And the politicians, some of them are being complicit with this. Some of them have took themselves aside for making it worse. And I hope we don't have a massacre on one of these campuses because I do not think this is going to turn out right. And I would like, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonetta. Phyllis and then Greer.
So, since the term anti-Semitic was just raised, there are accusations of anti-Semitism against the student protests, against the marches that occurred in the streets prior to that. And I call BS on that, because what they are saying is anti-Semitic is phrases like Palestine will be free and from the river to the sea. And those are not inherently anti-Semitic statements. They are not calling for the annihilation of all Jewish people or all Israeli people. That is not what the students or Palestinians in general want. Palestinians want to be able to live on their land freely without the terror that they face from the military and civilian settlers there, who many of whom are from our country, and just do horrible, horrible things. Since the 30 some years since I was in Gaza, anytime I bring up anything pro-Palestinian, somebody always, wants to call me anti-Semitic, and I don't care because I know I'm not. And I know that there's lots of Jewish people participating in all these protests. And it's ridiculous that our government's trying to pass a law that criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic. Are we going to be putting Jewish people in jail because they protest against occupation and genocide? Was that my time?
No, I was just saying Amal is on the list.
Oh, okay. And then I want to say what Joe Biden said about the students calling their protests violent because they trespassed, because they broke laws, because, I don't know, he rambled on a bit. But what he described as being unlawful was exactly what happened during all of our pushes in this country for civil rights. The people who went to the lunch counters, they were breaking laws. But now we celebrate them. The people who protested against the Vietnam War, now we realize they were right. At the time, they weren't getting that much love. So I think he needs to just shut up. And can I just say, I don't understand old people who don't keep up with the times, who get stuck in there, and I'm 61, who get stuck in their old ways of thinking and don't try to learn anything new. It's so frustrating. Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Greer and then Amal. Anyone else? Because in a little bit, maybe we'll keep going. Anyone else want to get on the list? No. Greer, go ahead.
Yeah, mighty funny. Some of us want a kumbaya when whites want their own things. But when Black people try to get their own things, they're like, oh no, y'all can't doing that. That means you're racist. Not necessarily, just because putting Black people first, which rarely happens in this country, that Black people are put first. And I'm going to say even by Black people are being put first. Whenever we are trying to put ourselves first, there's always somebody who has to say something. When we fought for civil rights, who benefited more than anybody? The white woman. So that's how it works out for us in America. And I saw a video with I think her name's Amanda Seals. She was on a plane and a Jewish woman was sitting next to her, and the woman knew who she was. And she said, well, do you have a problem sitting next to me because I'm Jewish. And she said, why would I have a problem sitting next to you because you're Jewish? She goes, because I'm against Palestine. And she's saying, you know, like, you're against Palestine, but that's your right. Well, but she was trying to get a stir out of him. So she said, well, I'm going to move. And Amanda Seals was like, well, bye then. Everybody has a right to their opinion. But she wanted to get a rise out of her. And this is what I want to end on. You ever notice that whenever there's a protest with the KKK, they're never called violent, they're never beaten. But any other protest that we have, people are manhandled, beaten, and taken to jail. Think about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Greer. We have Amal, and then the list is open. Phyllis, anyone else? No? Okay, go ahead, Amal.
Yeah, it's what's interesting about anybody who's critical of the Jewish state is automatically considered anti-Semitic. But Benjamin Netanyahu got on television and stood before the world and said, and I quote, as long as I'm the prime minister of Israel, there'll never be a Palestinian state.
Yeah.
Nobody called that anti-Semitic because technically the Palestinians are Semitic people too. But that didn't get labeled anti-Semitic or anti-Palestinian.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow that comment just flew over people's head. He said, as long as I'm the prime minister, there'll never be a Palestinian state. And this was, if I'm not mistaken, at the United Nations or somewhere where it was in a public forum where the world could see him making this comment. But nobody attacked him for it, and nobody called him anti-Palestinian or anti-Semitic. Aren't the Palestinians the Semitic people too? Why doesn't that term relate to them when we say it? We only relate that term to the Jewish people who oppress, who not only are oppressing the Palestinians, but the way they treat the Ethiopian Jews in Israel. Another thing that doesn't get talked about. But anyway, so the reason that I brought up the idea of a town of people succeeding, those Mexican towns and those different towns and areas that are predominantly Mexican or predominantly Chinese that Glenn was talking about, those people are in those towns because white folks didn't want them living in theirs.
Mm-hmm.
What Greer is describing in Baton Rouge of them succeeding is because they is a continuation of them not wanting to live around Black people. And I'm fine with that. I'm actually agreeing with you, Glenn. I'm fine with that. But you can't say that. No, go ahead. I think I made my point. It's okay. No, go ahead.
Amal, do you want to get back on the list? Your time was up.
No, it's okay.
Get back on, Amal, because I want to hear you finish your thought process.
No, it's okay. It's all good. I made my point.
Okay. Phyllis, Glenn, then Walterine.
Okay. So I had heard about this town, but I was going to go back and listen to more information about it or read more information about it. I can't find names today, I guess. The person that Gary, I think, in Baton Rouge, who's run for several offices, I think he's addressing it. When white people decide they're gonna like build themselves a little enclave, nothing good is coming of that. And I suspect it's to have a voting block in a specific area. Maybe Baton Rouge is becoming too Black for them. I don't know. um, to comment on what Greer said about Amanda Seales, who I follow and adore her. I was following her even before all this started to go down in October. She was also wearing a keffiyeh on that airplane. So the lady who was going to sit next to her saw that. I don't know if she knew actually who Amanda was, but she saw the keffiyeh. Yeah, that lady decided to get herself a new seat. And Amanda was like, don't forget your drink. These protests, when violence happens at these protests, as well as if you remember the Black Lives Matter protests, was because the police came in and started the violence. The police are the most violent group in this country, besides armed white men. And that's facts. Both Israeli officials and Tom Cotton here have started to say that these student protests are supporting Hamas. And I say they support resistance, and occupied people have a right to resist by any means necessary. That's international law. And they wouldn't have to resist if they weren't being so horribly oppressed and slaughtered. Thanks.
Back on or not?
Who? Who you talking to?
You and me.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I would
1106.
No, okay. Sorry. So Glenn and then Walterine, and then we'll probably do wrap up. Okay.
Okay. You know, America has lost all credibility in the world. You know, they can't come up and say, well, oh, they can't even talk about what Russia is doing to Ukraine. They can't say anything like that anymore because they look so hypocritical. Talking about, oh, they hit
Mhm.
they hit a building today. They hit the water system today. They can't talk about that anymore because of what they are a partnership in Gaza. So, and far as the students are concerned, they are America's best ambassadors to the world. They are probably stopping a lot of terrorist threats from happening because of what they're doing. That they see Americans fighting hard and being beaten for the plight of the Palestinians. Probably keeping a lot of terrorists from attacking this country at this moment.
Good point.
So and so the only friend Israel got right now is America. All the rest of the world is voting against Israel, and you can't use that stuff Holocaust no more. That's falling on deaf ears. Nobody looking at them as victims of Holocaust. They're looking at them creating a Holocaust right before the world's eyes. That's my opinion.
Where'd you go? Thank you, sir. You're done?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Walterine will be the last, and then the list is closed, and we'll do the wrap up. So, Walterine, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. It's been interesting. Yeah, it's been an interesting discussion, but there are several things that we really didn't talk about. Is that what is driving the United States for going against the Palestinians and helping and praising the Israelis? One of the things, our government is owned by the Israelis. Apex pays most of the money for their election, and that's one of the things too. The other thing too is that when you treat people bad, you can look at what happened to many of the Black people here. We were pushed and pushed and pushed until we decided to come out and start fighting for our rights. And I see the same thing happening with the Palestinians. I can remember when Southern had their boycott or their riots on campus. Well, some of the people that supported that was Muslims. And a lot of them were blamed for causing the students to act up. It was pushing them to do that, which was not true because they think that Black people can think for themselves. The other thing too, the protest is all over the world now. I don't know if anybody looked at Al Jazeera and some of the other news, international news that talks about that. This weekend, there was a big protest around the globe. And things. And the other thing somebody said about the propaganda, that our news cycle, American news, is one-sided with everything. They don't talk about the hostages that are, the Palestinians that are held hostages in Israel. They just released, I think, something like 65 of them, one dead person and one that was seriously ill, We look at the hostages that Hamas supposedly handle. Everything is Hamas, and that's Israel. I mean, I don't understand how a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old can be held. They call them Hamas. They're not even potty trained, and they're putting them in jail, taking them from the families. Nobody's looking at that. My whole thing, the children are basically the victim. And I heard one of the generals, Israeli generals, said that they're going to get them all out because the children are going to grow up to hate them and cause problems. The women are going to birth more children. The men, they're going to either kill them or put them in jail. So that's how you're getting rid of people. As far as genocide, I feel that even in this country, I think that's me, that genocide is being happening here. Look at the whole medical system and how we can't even get decent health care, especially within our communities. People are dying. Was that you?
Walterine, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
your time was up, but you'll have one more minute wrap up. So
it's okay. I'm finished.
Okay, so we are going to go into the wrap up, and there's only one person that hasn't spoken. Okay, well, you'll have one more minute in a minute. Stephanie was the only person that didn't get to speak. So Stephanie has 2 minutes if you would like to speak, or you can pass. It's up to you.
No, thank you. I'd like to speak. The reason I like Erace is because a variety of people are here and we can talk about things in a manner it's just wonderful. Anyway, what I wanted to comment today was the gist of what I got out of the article is genocide, and the whole idea that colonialism has so much to do with that and has traditionally had so much to do with that. I wanted to thank Teresa for bringing up caste, because when I read the article, the first thing I thought of was Isabel Wilkerson's book, and the movie Origin, if you haven't seen it, is a very good movie. Thank you, Teresa, for recommending and talking about that. I also wanted to thank Phyllis for talking about new ways of thinking. I'm older than you, Phyllis. I'm 70, but new ways of thinking are really important. And I think the power of this article is a new way of thinking of it in colonialism terms. That's just something we need to pay more attention to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Okay, so everyone else has 1 minute, and I'm going to start with Nancy.
I was just thinking, not Nancy. What did you say? Nancy. Anyway,
sorry.
An interesting discussion. I really don't have any more to add to what everybody else, a lot of different opinions about things, but I guess I do stand by what I said, is that, everybody has a way of looking at things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, one person is right and the other person is wrong. It's just a different way of looking at it. All right. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. Thank you. Then Phyllis, 1 minute.
Well, somewhat ironically, Germany is still on the side of Israel. They seem to not have fully understood their own Holocaust history and seem to apply it only to Jewish people. So they think they have to protect Israel, which that's not a good look. And other countries in Europe as well. Not all of them, but some, because the Irish get it. And yeah, thank you for the topic, Louise, and for facilitating and letting me get to talk about this without being the facilitator.
Well, thank you for picking a almost identical article. That was
Yeah,
great.
you're welcome.
Marion.
Thank you, Louise, for this topic. I appreciated everyone's comments, and I just like to say I am aware that the people in the Black African people in South Africa are in charge of their lives now. If I gave the indication that I wasn't aware of it by mentioning that, I have been aware of that ever since the people received that capability and that ability to govern themselves. This issue of colonialism is something that needed to be addressed. It has had a long-reaching effect on all of our lives. And I'll say this statement I've said about a trillion times before, until we start looking at each other as human beings and not as the other, and believing that only certain people are supposed to have certain rights, this world is always going to be in a turmoil. And I'll say something that I say to my granddaughter from time to time when I get particularly disgusted with the human race. I said it a couple of days ago when there was a news broadcast on us. Human beings are really stupid. We are really some stupid creatures. And we really just need to get our act together. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we really need to get it together and realize we're flawed, fleshy, stupid people, and we all are going to die one day. So we need to get it together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
Perfect. That's a perfect statement. Greer, 1 minute if you want it.
Great article. I really enjoyed it. They're using our tax dollars to do something that's unconscionable.
Uh-oh, you're breaking up.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay, I'm saying they're using our tax dollars. Just come. You know what? Great article. I loved it. There you go.
No, say that second thing. Something about tax dollars. Say it one more time.
They're using our tax dollars to do this genocide to the Palestinians.
Right.
So all Americans aren't down with what's going on, but we don't have a choice in it. All we can do is pray and advocate, and we need to keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Greer. Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe Biden is in a he has a problem. If he don't start going against Israel and stop that giving them ammunition, then he's going to lose Michigan. Or if he decides to keep on helping them, he's going to lose Michigan. But if he goes against Israel, then the lobby is going to take all that money that they give to all the Democrats and then run people against them, and Joe Biden too, and also use CNN, MSNBC, and all the networks they have under their control to go against him. He feared them more than he feared the voters. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Glenn. I've got Walterine, 1 minute if you want it.
She has disappeared off the screen.
Oh, okay. Then I guess we've got Teresa.
Yes, thank you for bringing this article, Louise. That's all I have to say.
Oh, you're welcome. You were very quiet today, Teresa. That's not meant to be an insult or anything. Amal.
Yeah, it's a real great article. To a point that I think Phyllis made as it relates to the people who are being arrested for breaking the law. You know, the sometimes you have to disrupt the law in order to make change. And I'll just name three people who did that in American history. One being Harriet Tubman. She broke what was the established law at the time. It was against the law to run away from if you were a slave, to run away from the plantation. Rosa Parks broke what was the established law at that time. And we revere him today, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. broke what was the established law at the time. So sometimes in order to make change, you have to disrupt the status quo. And if that means going to jail or putting your life on the line, then sometimes that's what it means when you're fighting a system of injustice, like what you're seeing in Palestine and the United States, so on and so forth.
Thank you, Amal. Okay, so I did jot down a few things, but of course, you know how it is when you jot down things. You look at it and it's like, what the heck was I trying to say? But I think when someone had mentioned about that, I think it was Glenn, that we're seeing it all on TV now, and that's motivating people to do something about it. All hail to the young people, college students. I'm very proud of young people in America right now. Um, and I think, Greer, you made a point about there's genocide everywhere. Yes, absolutely. But do we do nothing? Like, I mean, yeah, the world sucks. And I guess you got to get the priorities. It's kind of like, as I was saying to Amal with the triage, um, it's what do we do first to make a point? And people always seem to need to feel better than others. That's human nature, and it's the horrible side of human nature that has caused all the problems in the world. I'm watching a documentary at the moment about castles and feudal Britain, which I love history, and it's all. I mean, in feudal Britain, that was the same thing. They relied on the peasants to give them food and pay them taxes. They relied on them to work to give them so they could be rich and lord over them, and all they had over them was, soldiers and arrows and things that they could kill them with. So, it started very long time ago, and that's just human nature, and that's what we do, and it's really horrible. And I really and in Palestine, by the way, they've destroyed all this land. What was interesting was, though, that they've destroyed loads of ancient olive groves, which is their, that's how they make their money. So it's a bit weird. So obviously, the Israeli government have another plan for the land, so it's all very interesting, sickeningly interesting, obviously. Anywho, I could go on, and I won't. I have family, Palestinian family. So I do get the intel on some stuff. And it's all very sad. Anyway, I love you all, and I really appreciate your thoughts, and I hope you have a wonderful
Louise Walterine
week.
came back on if you want to give her 1 minute.
Walterine, did you want 1 more minute?
I was not called on either.
Oh, Leonetta didn't get called on either.
Oh, really? Oh my God, Leonetta, I thought my list was foolproof. I'm so sorry. Leonetta, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, thank you for this article. I've been wanting to talk about this topic, but unfortunately, the people who I've been dealing with a lot of children, and this is children. So this is not a conversation I could have with them this week. But anyway, I just want to put this thought out here. Do the this attack on the Israel did not come out of the sky somewhere. It was like a Black Lives Matter program. People, the Palestinians, just got tired of it. I don't know if everybody on this call is aware of the stuff that the settlers have been doing to the Palestinians for years, and
Yes.
also the government taking their land. And I mean, and does the country of which they talk about getting rid of Hamas, the prime minister, look at all the orphans that they're making. Look at how many children are being killed. Don't they? They're creating future terrorists because of what's going on right now. And is it only me that see this? Can't they stop the madness? Everybody needs their own. That was theirs in the first place. I just don't understand politicians why they don't see the connection, why these lines don't get drawn together. If they, everybody needs their own land, and these people need their land back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so, Walterine, do you want to have a minute?
All right, when I start thinking about this, I get kind of like so much goes through my head. But one of the things that came out on one of the news things about Netanyahu and Hamas, where Hamas was being paid for by Netanyahu to cause the problems that we have. And nobody ever talks about that. Now Hamas no longer wants to work with him. He's all upset. But it was United States money that was paying Hamas. Because when we send it to Israel, which is really upsetting to me because they have health care, they have free education, free housing, and free food off of our dollars, off of our taxpayer dollars. And I don't understand why we keep giving them money and stuff. But a lot of this stuff, it didn't just happen October 6th. It's been going on, I think Lynetta said, for years, for almost over 70 years, where what they were doing to the Palestinians. But I think, just like the American Indians were saying, or indigenous people saying, if we would have known what would happen, we probably would have built a fence right by the ocean to keep them out. And I think the same thing with the Palestinians. They were nice enough to allow them to come in and take over the land. But the other thing is we keep confusing it too, like they confuse Hamas with Palestinians, but we keep, the Zionists are the ones. It's an ideology that the Zionists are pushing, not all Jews, but them. And the other thing too is they are against Christians that live there, Christian Palestinians, like you said, Afro-Palestinians and everything else. They just want to kill everybody off. And they keep saying it. I don't know why we don't hear it. They want to get rid of it. Turn from the sea to the river, from the Jews. That's it. Bye. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Walterine. Sorry,
I'm sorry.
to cut you off. I know it's a very emotional subject, and it makes one sick, really, of what's going on, and that the world.
Well, I want to say this right quick.
The world is blind.
Right. But we need to learn the history. That's the whole problem. Even within the States, we don't understand, or we don't have knowledge of the history.
I actually want to add to that, Walterine, that I do believe because of this, a lot of people are looking into it. I really think that a lot of people have started looking into the history and have realized the backstory. So there is that good thing about it. And the more they learn about it, the more the outrage grows. So, you know, people are learning.
Right. One more thing. Cop City in Georgia is built on indigenous land. They have taken that land. That's where, yeah, and they are fighting for it. Right.
It's built on indigenous land. I'm afraid we have to close the conversation. So, yeah.
I'll stop
thank you,
recording.
everybody. And